A tomb just opened in Egypt after 3,600 years sealed in darkness. Golden hieroglyphs. Vaulted ceilings taller than a giraffe. Everything about it screamed royalty. But the king's name was gone. Not faded, not eroded. Erased on purpose. And in ancient Egypt, that wasn't bad luck. That was the single worst fate a human soul could suffer. By the end of this video, you'll understand why an entire civilization believed losing your name meant losing your existence forever, and why, right now, a forgotten king might still be waiting for someone to say it. This story starts on ground the ancient Egyptians considered sacred above almost anywhere else on Earth. Abydos. They believed this was the exact spot where the god Osiris had been killed, torn apart, and resurrected to rule the underworld. That single belief turned this patch of desert into Egypt's spiritual capital of death and rebirth. Pharaohs built temples here. Pilgrims crossed the country to leave offerings. Every year, crowds gathered to reenact a god dying and coming back to life, equal parts funeral, festival, and pilgrimage. And because everyone wanted to be close to Osiris in the next world, pharaohs literally competed for burial plots near this ground. Abydos wasn't just a cemetery. It was real estate for eternity. So when a joint American-Egyptian team started digging beneath a rocky rise nicknamed Anubis Mountain, named for the jackal god who guarded the dead, they already suspected they were standing on something important. They had no idea how important. 23 feet down, they broke into a royal tomb unlike anything found at the site in years. But here's the twist nobody expected. Ancient looters had already stripped it bare centuries ago. No mask, no jewelry, no treasure. Just empty stone, and one detail that turned this from interesting into an obsession overnight: the cartouche, the royal nameplate that should have identified the king, was completely unreadable. To us, that sounds like erosion. To the Egyptians, it would have been a fate worse than death itself. They believed your name, your Ren, was a literal piece of your soul. Speak it, and you live on in the next world. Lose it, and you cease to exist, permanently, in this life and the next. That's why kings carved their names onto everything they could reach: temples, statues, tomb walls, not out of vanity, but survival. One king, Thutmose III, took it further than anyone. His entire burial chamber was physically shaped like his own name. The architecture itself was his identity. Which makes what archaeologists found here even stranger. Someone, time, rivals, or deliberate erasure had wiped this king from his own eternity. And the deeper they looked, the stranger it got. Painted at the entrance, untouched by looters, stood two goddesses: Isis, who pieced Osiris's body back together, and Nephthys, eternal guardian of the dead. Their presence confirmed this wasn't an ordinary burial. This was someone the gods themselves were assigned to protect. So who was he? To answer that, you have to go back to one of the strangest, messiest chapters in Egyptian history, a fractured era called the Second Intermediate Period, when Egypt wasn't one kingdom but several, each with its own ruler clawing for power. A real Game of Thrones, played out along the Nile. Buried in the middle of that chaos was a dynasty so obscure, historians spent decades arguing over whether it had even existed. The Abydos dynasty. No temples, no monuments, just scraps of names on broken stone until 2014, when archaeologists found the tomb of a king named Senebkay. And everything changed. His skeleton told a brutal story: 18 wounds, strikes to the skull, the spine, the hands. A king who died in battle, one of the only pharaohs in history we can say that about with certainty. His tomb was modest, even recycled from older burials, but it proved the impossible. The Abydos dynasty was real. And now, this new tomb is throwing that timeline into question. It shares the exact same architectural fingerprint as Senebkay's same limestone chambers, same mud brick vaults, same divine guardians, except this one is bigger. Which means we may be looking at an even earlier, even more powerful king from this same lost dynasty. A ruler significant enough to be buried on a grander scale than Senebkay himself, and yet stripped of the one thing every Egyptian king feared losing more than his own life: his name. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. This man did everything right. He built on the most sacred ground in Egypt. He secured protection from two of the underworld's most powerful goddesses. He followed every ritual his civilization believed would guarantee eternity. And he still lost. Someone, or something, found a way to erase him anyway. And the mystery doesn't stop at the tomb's edge. Just outside it, archaeologists found a Roman-era pottery workshop, kilns, storerooms, even ancient receipts scratched onto pottery shards. Centuries later, the same ground became a medieval cemetery. Different empires, different gods, different centuries. And yet something about this place kept pulling people back to it, generation after generation, as if it never stopped feeling like a door to somewhere else. So now archaeologists are left with the one question this entire discovery hinges on. Was this king's name destroyed by enemies who wanted him erased from history? Stripped by rivals settling a political score that died with them 3,000 years ago? Or did time simply do what it does to even the most carefully built monuments? Here's the wildest part. Researchers are now scanning the surrounding ground with technology that can detect hidden chambers without breaking a single layer of soil. Which means somewhere beneath that same hill, the missing piece of this puzzle, maybe even the king's actual name, could still be sitting in the dark, fully intact, waiting to be read for the first time in 3,600 years. And if the ancient Egyptians were right about the soul, that means somewhere out there, right now, this man is still waiting. Waiting for someone, anyone, to finally say his name out loud and give him back the eternity he thought he'd already paid for.